Hello and welcome to Smash Writing. We're continuing our journey today with Saw 4. The beat goes on. We open to Kramer's autopsy, which is very gooey indeed. And along the way, they find a tape in his stomach, and we see a little bit of a flashback to where he swallowed the tape in Saw 3. And they call in homicide. We get Detective Mark. We're going to play a game how many times I call him Matt in the next 4 movies, which may happen quite a lot. But anyway, the tape says that his tests are not over even in his death. And we jump to a test. We got one guy with his eyes sewn shut, then we got another guy with his mouth stitched closed. And they start getting pulled into the device. And the one guy with his eyes his mouth sewn shut, ends up having to kill the guy with his eyes closed because they can't really communicate what's going on. And we jump to them using this to the police using this robot to clear out the facility, to where we find Detective Carey's body, reminding us what movie we could have had in movie 3. And the FBI have arrived. We meet Schramm and Perez. And for future references, I will be calling Schramm Agent Dum Dum. But they're investigating this. We see Detective Riggs is back. He was in 2 and maybe 3, but he's back in this one. But the FBI Agent Dum Dum, he does not believe that Kramer or Amanda could have lifted Carey up into position, and so there must be a third one. Matt points out that they could have used the pulley system, which is just crazy to think about. They make all these death traps, but a pulley system's out of the question. We'll talk about that later. So he's suspecting there's a third suspect involved, and they're going to try to figure out who it is. Meanwhile, Detective Riggs, he's really broken up about all of this because he's already lost Eric. No one knows where Eric is. And now they found Detective Carey dead, and he's feeling really bad. And him and Mark get into a little bit about him not going through a door unchecked and being sloppy, and he ends up sending him home while he's watching these interview tapes with this one woman that we find out is Judy Till, I believe her last name is. We'll get to it. Riggs doesn't want to go home because he wants to find Eric. He still hopes that Eric is alive. So he goes home. He's forced to go home. And we meet his wife, Tracy. She's going to go help her mother. He declines to go with her. And he's attacked in his apartment. And we go see Mark, and we see a pigman over his shoulder. And then we go back to Riggs. He wakes up in his tub in his apartment, has been turned into a saw trap. And he's being told to face his obsession of trying to save everyone and learning to let go. And Eric I think he sees a videotape of Eric. And he has 90 minutes for Eric to try to save himself, or the device will take out both Eric and Hoffman, who's attached to the other side. But there's a person in the room already, and she's got a pig mask on and chained to this device. It turns out there's a woman in the chair, and he's told it's not his job to save her, then to just leave. But he doesn't do that. He does manage to save, because it starts ripping her hair out by her back of her hair. And he manages to save her, and he leaves the room for a moment, and she stumbles over to where the TV stand is and pulls out a envelope and a knife, and she has her own game, and her game is the man will try to save you, and if he does, you have to kill him first, or else he'll put you away for evidence that he's discovered about her or is going to frame her with. So she attacks him, and he's forced to kill her. And meanwhile, back at the feds, they had found the bullet, and they've done a fingerprint that matches Riggs. So now they're trying to find Riggs. Meanwhile, he is being run through this gauntlet of seeing the way Jigsaw sees. And that takes him on a journey down to this shady hotel with these keys. One will save a life and one will take it. And it's set up in a way, this house is set up where he has to go down and get the guy working the front desk and put him into a game. Because he is a criminal who is recordings of himself violating women. See, someone you actually want to see die in one of these traps. And we do. He fails to get out of his game. Meanwhile, Agent Dum Dum and Perez, they are at Riggs' house. And it's heavily insinuating that they believe Riggs is the copycat Jigsaw. He's picking up where Kramer left off. And Agent Dum Dum has Jill Tuck, that's her last name, brought in for questioning. She's rather annoyed. She's tired of these questions. And we learned that Jill Tuck is Kramer's ex-wife, who runs a methadone clinic downtown. Along the way, we've learned that she was pregnant, and one of the addicts hits her with the door when they're trying to rob the place, and they lose the baby. And he is the first person who gets a trap, and he has to push his head through these blades, which cuts up his face. And he does manage to succeed in his trap, but he tries to attack Kramer, who gets out of the way, and he throws himself into a razor wire box. And that's pretty much where he gets left. But meanwhile, back with Riggs, he has to go back to where it all started, and he remembers a case he worked on, which involved this dad who was beating his child, but the mom wouldn't corroborate the story, so they had nothing to go off of. So Riggs ends up beating on this dad and separated, and a lawyer was going to press charges, but Riggs isn't talking, and Mark is claiming witness that the dad hit him first, so there's nothing the lawyer can do. Meanwhile, at the game with Eric and Mark, what this whole game is about is there's a block of ice melting, and when it finishes melting after 90 minutes, it will hang Eric, and the water will electrify Mark. And there's a guy watching, and we don't see him right away, and then we do see him. It's the lawyer from that case, and he's also the same one who had his mouth sewn shut. And we learned that his whole game is pretty much, because he has a game of his own, he has to watch. He's just there to make sure everything happens. But while they're doing that, they look up and they see these two big blocks of ice that will swing down and connect with Eric's head, squashing his head. And it's wired to the door. And they're like, you better hope he doesn't come through that door. Talking about Riggs, who is now on his way to the Gideon plant. Oh no, he's on his way to deal with the third test, which are the parents, the mother and the father of the girl. And the dad is skewered in ways that are fatal for him, and the mom is skewered in place, like it's straight through both of them. The mom's is coming out of non-fatal places, and she's already dealt with him, the husband, because she's pulled out the rods that killed him. And instead of helping, Riggs gives her the key that'll unlock her, but she has to finish this test herself, and he goes off toward the Gideon meat plant, where Eric is at. And meanwhile, you have Agent Dum Dum and Shaw who show up at the scene, and they're starting to realize that this is all a test. And Shaw Dum Dum thinks that this is a recruiting thing. Jigsaw's trying to recruit Riggs as a new disciple kind of deal. And while they're investigating the scene with the parents, they find Billy the Doll with a cassette from Jigsaw saying Schramm is going to kill an innocent man. And then a bomb blows up in Perez's face. So now Schramm goes back to Jill Tuck and is pushing her for more information, and he realizes that Gideon was going to be the name of Kramer's son and the name of the meat packing place. So he's on his way to the meat packing place too. And they're all converging, and then we see Jeff from the third movie. He's going through the warehouse toward the room where Kramer and Amanda are at, and Dr. Lynn, his wife. this is all happening at the same exact time. So while Riggs is going toward where Eric and Lamb are, Dr. Agent Dum Dum ends up in the room with everyone, just as Jeff is killing Kramer. And he turns around and he points his empty gun at the new guy who just entered the room. And he's screaming, "Where's my daughter?" And Agent Dum Dum kills him. Meanwhile, Riggs bursts in the room, not knowing anything. He's ignoring all the things. Eric tries to shoot him to get him to not come through the door, which he does anyway. Ice comes down, takes out Eric. And it looks like Mark is about to be electrocuted. And I believe at this point, if I'm not mistaken, well, they both end up dead. Because I think the trap for... oh no, Riggs shoots the lawyer, who also, both of them are down. And then Mark gets out of the chair. Mark is the third man behind everything. And he deals with Riggs, and then he locks Agent Dum Dum in the room, and that's Saw 4. Saw 4. Saw 4. Let's talk about some pros, shall we? The traps are still a little bit of fun. I still like some of the traps. I like the skewer test. I thought that was an interesting little test. I liked seeing that second guy in the test get it. That was good. I did also kind of like the idea, why Riggs is being tested, because besides the fact that he doesn't want him looking for it anymore, he's doing everything Mark told him to do. He's like, you don't go through a door unchecked, and he went through a door unchecked, and if he would have stopped to check the door, everything would have worked out fine. There was only like 8 seconds left on the clock still, so even if he hadn't, all he had to do was be like 8 seconds slower. It sounded like it was a minute or two. He wasn't beating the clock by that much. Lyric Bet, I believe that's how you pronounce it. He's the guy who played Riggs. I thought he did a really good job. Tillman Bell, of course, he did a good job. Costas Mandylor is Mark Hoffman. He's not bad here, I suppose. It's just a little disappointing that we're dealing with another associate of Jigsaw. We'll go into his story in Saw 5. It just got a little bit more repetitive. It was a fun little tease, even with him being in the trap. It just wasn't as good as what we'd already seen from Kramer in the first one and then Amanda in part 2. So, he's fine. It didn't really do anything well. This movie it's not bad. It's not as bad. I think it might be better than 3. But it is interesting that this game is going on at the same time as 3, because now we're pointing into the fact that like Kramer's not just a genius. It's like this is borderline super genius paranormal, because he has got everything down, timed perfectly among all of these people, which is kind of incredible. Yeah, it's like you're really pushing the boundaries of acceptance. How much do you want to stretch your imagination? If it does start to become far-fetched, I'll stretch my imagination for you. It's fine. I'll meet you there. But I feel like this movie might just be the bare definition of fine. It's not bad. It's not terrible. I wouldn't put it up there as good as like the part 1 or part 2, but it is better than 3. So there's that. And the end, that's all you can really hope for. So, my final review. This is a late edition. I completely forgot to bring up this point. Agent Dum Dum's pointing out that there's a third suspect. Here's the thing. I mean, he ends up being right. So, like, how much flack can you really give him? But the point is, he shouldn't honestly suspect that there's a third. Because Mark is right. These guys build these ingenious death traps. But a pulley system is crazy? In fact, she can't lift him up there. Like, why couldn't she lift him up? Not him, Carrie. She couldn't lift Agent Carrie up there. I mean, even the weight differential between the two is not that bad, not that much. And why would she lift her up there to put on hooks when it would just be easier for anybody, no matter how good of a lifter you are, to just pulley her up there? So the idea that he can't, they couldn't get her up there without a third person is stupid, to be honest. Just stupid. My final grade for Saw 4 will be a generous B minus. There you go. That's best. I think that's good. Fair. It's a good movie. Can watch it again. Yeah, B minus. Okay. Have a good one. Bye bye.